My parents took out a $463,000 mortgage in my name without my knowledge to put on my golden sister's loan. Without telling me, then said, "Your sister deserved this house. You should be honored to help family." When I threatened legal action, they screamed I was destroying the family over money. What I did next made them all beg for forgiveness. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Throwaway account because some family members know my main. This happened about 8 months ago, and I'm still kind of processing it. Fair warning, this is long as hell, but I need to get it all out there. TLDR at the bottom, but honestly, you're gonna want the full story for this one. So I'm gonna start with the moment my world basically imploded. It was a Tuesday morning, 11:43 a.m. I remember because I was literally watching the clock, waiting for my lunch break. I work at a logistics company doing inventory management. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills. Anyway, I'm sitting in my tiny-ass kitchen. And when I say tiny, I mean if 2 people are in there at the same time, someone's getting elbowed. Eating those 99-cent ramen noodles like the financial powerhouse I am. My phone rings. Unknown number, out-of-state area code. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail because who actually answers random calls anymore? But I was bored and figured why not? "Hello?" I say, probably sounding like I had food in my mouth because, well, I did. "Is this Nathan Reynolds?" The voice was all business. "No, how are you today bullshit, straight to the point." "Yeah, that's me. This is Tracy from Silver Oak Mortgage Servicing. We're calling about the delinquent balance on your mortgage account. We've sent several notices to your address and haven't received any response." I literally stopped chewing. Like mid-bite, noodles hanging out of my mouth like some kind of confused pasta monster. "Hold up. What mortgage?" Tracy didn't even pause. "The mortgage associated with the property at 412 Lavender Drive in Millbrook Heights. Your name is listed as the primary borrower. Current outstanding balance is $463,117.83. I'm not even kidding." I started laughing. Like actually belly laughing. It was so absurd I thought someone was pranking me. "Lady, I think you've got the wrong Nathan Reynolds. I rent a 600-square-foot apartment, and my bed is on the floor. My biggest financial decision this month was whether to buy name-brand mac and cheese or stick with the store brand. I don't even own a couch, let alone a $500,000 house." Tracy sounded like she'd heard this song and danced before. "Sir, I understand your confusion, but I need to verify some information." But then Tracy starts asking for my personal info. Social security number, date of birth, mother's maiden name. And everything matched. Everything. The loan was real. It was in my name. And it was defaulted. I felt the blood drain from my face. You know that feeling when you're about to get hit by a truck and your brain just starts screaming? That was me. My hands actually went cold, and I had to put the phone on speaker because I was shaking too bad to hold it. Get this. About a year and a half earlier, someone had taken out a mortgage using my identity. They bought a house in some suburb I'd never heard of and defaulted within 10 months. The co-signer? My dad. That's when everything clicked. And I was about to lose my absolute mind. See, here's the thing about my family that you need to understand. I'm the middle kid. Got an older brother who's basically perfect, married his college sweetheart, works in finance, lives in some McMansion with 2.5 kids and a golden retriever. Then there's my younger sister Rachel. She's 27, 5 years younger than me, and she's been the family princess since day one. Rachel's always been finding herself. Yoga instructor for 6 months, then a life coach, then she was going to be an influencer. Always in designer athleisure, always talking about manifesting her dreams and aligning with abundance. My parents have been bankrolling her lifestyle since she graduated college with a communications degree she's never used. Meanwhile, me? I've been working since I was 16, paid my own way through community college, got a decent job, never asked for handouts. I'm the responsible one, who doesn't need help. The invisible kid who just handles his own shit and stays out of the way. But apparently, I wasn't invisible enough to keep them from using my identity to buy Rachel her dream house. I hung up on Tracy and immediately called my dad. He answered like he always does, annoyed that someone dared interrupt his retirement. "Nate, what's up? Did you co-sign a mortgage with my name on it?" Dead silence. Like, the kind of silence that's so loud it makes your ears ring. "Why would you think that?" he finally asked, but way too fast, like he'd been rehearsing the answer. "Because the bank just called me about a house I apparently own." And guess whose name is on it as cosigner? More silence. Then, look, calm down. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. My voice went up about 3 octaves. You used my identity to buy a house. That's literally fraud. She needed help, he said, like that explained everything. Help? You signed me up for a $463,000 loan without asking? That's when I heard her in the background. Rachel's voice, all panicked and whispery. Of course she was there, probably lounging on some overpriced sectional sofa in her stolen house, freaking out that her free ride was about to end. I could picture her in those $150 athleisure pants she's always wearing, the ones that cost more than my grocery budget for a month. Then my mom gets on the line. Well, you weren't using your credit for anything important anyway? I had to sit down. I was so stunned I couldn't form words. They talked about my credit like it was some family resource they could just borrow whenever they felt like it. Like my financial future was their personal piggy bank. Later, and this part made me want to burn everything down, I found out they'd used an old power of attorney form. One I'd signed when I was 18 so my dad could help me appeal a student loan issue. They kept it for over a decade and used it to forge my signature on mortgage paperwork. When I pulled my credit report that night, it looked like a war zone. Late payments, collections, foreclosure proceedings. My score had dropped from 780 to 520. And me? I was about to get sued for a house I'd never even seen. The next few days were a blur of phone calls, paperwork, and slowly realizing just how deep this rabbit hole went. I called in sick to work and spent 12 hours a day trying to figure out what the hell happened to my life. First stop, the credit report. It was worse than I thought. Not only was there the mortgage, but there were 3 credit cards opened in my name over the past 2 years. All maxed out, all in default. Someone had been living it up on my credit while I was eating ramen and riding the bus to work. I filed identity theft reports with all 3 credit bureaus, froze my credit, sent cease and desist letters to every collection agency that was harassing me. The whole process was like navigating a bureaucratic nightmare designed by sadists. Hold times that lasted longer than some movies. Transfer after transfer to departments that didn't exist. At one point, I spent 45 minutes explaining my situation to a guy who kept asking if I was sure I hadn't just forgotten about buying a house. Yeah, buddy, I definitely forgot about dropping $500,000 on real estate while I'm over here counting quarters for laundry money. But here's the thing. The bank still had my signature on file, a signature my own family had forged. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I started investigating. Turns out Rachel hadn't just moved into this house. She'd been posting about it on social media for over a year. Instagram stories from her dream home, Facebook posts about grateful living, TikTok showing off her walk-in closet. She had a whole highlight reel called House Goals, where she's posing in front of granite countertops and a kitchen island that cost more than I make in 6 months. But here's what really pissed me off. While I'm getting collection calls and foreclosure notices, she's throwing parties, wine nights with her yoga friends, manifestation circles in the living room. She even hosted a vision board workshop where she charged people $200 to cut pictures out of magazines in her stolen house. The audacity was fucking unreal. I started digging deeper, called the mortgage company, pretended to be verifying information, found out the application listed my income as $147,000 a year. I've never made more than $63,000 in my life. The employment verification said I was a senior operations director at some company I'd never heard of. So not only did they steal my identity, they completely fabricated my entire financial profile to qualify for the loan. But wait, it gets better. I drove by the house one weekend just to see what $500,000 of my ruined credit had bought. It's in one of those new developments where all the houses look exactly the same, and the HOA probably fines you for having the wrong shade of beige mailbox. Big, modern, with those huge windows that scream, "I have more money than sense." Rachel's white Mercedes was in the driveway. Because of course it was. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes, just staring at this house that was technically mine, but that I'd never be able to afford, watching my sister live her best life on my dime. A jogger ran past. Some soccer mom in designer workout gear that probably cost more than my car payment. She gave me a suspicious look, like I was casing the joint. If only she knew I was the guy actually paying for half the houses in this neighborhood through identity theft. That's when something inside me snapped. I'd always been the good son, the quiet one who didn't make waves, the one who cleaned up his own messes and never asked for help. But they'd taken everything from me. My credit, my financial future, my ability to ever buy a house of my own. And they expected me to just, what? Smile and take it? Nah. I was done being the family doormat. Actually, scratch that. I wasn't just done being the doormat. I was about to become their worst freaking nightmare. So here's where I probably should have just called the cops and let them handle it. Normal people would have filed a police report, hired a lawyer, gone through proper channels. But I wasn't feeling particularly normal at this point. I was feeling strategic. See, the thing about being the ignored middle child is you get really good at observing. You learn to pay attention, to notice things other people miss. And what I'd noticed over the years is that my family operated on a very simple principle. Rachel gets what Rachel wants, and everyone else figures out how to make it work. Well, I was about to flip that script. First thing I did was document everything. And I mean everything. Screenshots of Rachel's social media posts, photos of her car in the driveway. I even took pictures of her posting packages by the front door. Designer clothes from companies I couldn't pronounce. Organic meal kits that cost more per day than I spend on food in a week. Copies of every letter from the mortgage company. I started a spreadsheet tracking every payment, every late fee, every collection notice. I was building a case like I was the FBI going after a mob boss. The spreadsheet was honestly therapeutic. Color-coded tabs, cross-reference data, hyperlinks to supporting documents. My coworkers would have been impressed. I'd never been this organized about anything in my life, but I guess nothing motivates you like righteous fury and the prospect of financial ruin. But I needed help, professional help. So I called my friend Jenna from college. Now, Jenna and I weren't super close or anything, but we'd kept in touch over the years. She's a lawyer now, specializes in identity theft and financial fraud. Smart as hell and tougher than a $2 steak. She owes me a favor from when I helped her move during a rainstorm and everyone else bailed. Plus, she hates bullies. And what my family did was pure bullying. I called her on a Friday afternoon. Jenna, I need to ask you something, and it's gonna sound crazy. Try me. So I told her everything. The mortgage, the forged signature, Rachel living in the house, my parents acting like it was no big deal. When I finished, there was silence for like 30 seconds. Holy shit, Nate. This isn't just identity theft. This is fraud on multiple levels. How long has this been going on? About 18 months. And they're still living in the house? Rachel is. Posting about it on Instagram like she's some kind of lifestyle influencer. Jenna laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh lawyers make when they smell blood in the water. Oh, we're gonna bury them. Can you come in Monday? Bring everything you've got. Monday couldn't come fast enough. I'm fast. Jenna's office is downtown, one of those glass towers that makes you feel important just walking through the lobby. The elevator had that new money smell, leather and expensive cologne, and the dreams of people who can afford $400 an hour legal fees. Made my target clearance button-down feel even more inadequate than usual. She took one look at my folder of evidence and started grinning like Christmas morning. This is beautiful, she said, flipping through bank statements and credit reports. They didn't just forge your signature. They created an entirely fictitious financial profile. Look at this income verification. The letterhead is from a company that doesn't exist. The notary stamp belongs to someone who moved to Arizona 3 years ago. So what can we do? We can do a lot. But first, I need to ask, how far are you willing to go with this? I thought about Rachel's Instagram posts, her manifestation workshops, her wine nights in the house I was paying for. All the way. Good, because I'm about to introduce your family to the concept of consequences. Jenna laid out the plan. First, we'd file a formal fraud complaint with the bank, demanding a full investigation into the loan's origination. We'd request all documentation, including the original applications and any supporting materials. Then we'd file a civil suit for damages, not just the money, but emotional distress, credit damage, lost opportunities. But here's the kicker. We weren't going to warn them. No phone calls, no family meetings, no chances to work it out. They'd made their choice when they forged my signature. Now they were going to live with the consequences. One more thing, Jenna said as I was leaving. Don't contact them. Don't text. Don't call. Don't show up at the house. Let the paperwork do the talking. I nodded, but I was already planning my next move. Because there was one thing Jenna didn't know about me. I'd always been better at playing chess than anyone in my family realized. And it was time for my opening move. 2 weeks later, I was standing on Rachel's doorstep with a manila folder that was about to ruin her day. I know Jenna said not to contact them, but I needed to see her face when reality hit. Sometimes revenge isn't just about winning, it's about watching them realize they've lost. I'd driven out on a Thursday morning, took a personal day from work. No warning, no heads up, just me in a rental car and a folder full of legal documents that would make any normal person shit their pants. The house looked exactly like Instagram. Perfectly manicured lawn, those expensive-looking decorative rocks, Everything screaming, I have money. Rachel's Mercedes was in the driveway, probably detailed and waxed because God forbid anyone think she couldn't afford car maintenance. I knocked once. Not hard, just enough to make the door rattle. Rachel opened it, and for half a second, she looked genuinely surprised. Then her face morphed into that fake smile she'd perfected over the years. The one that says, I'm innocent and you're overreacting. Nate, oh my God, what a surprise, she chirped, like she hadn't just financially nuked my life. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Okay, sure, come in. Do you want something to drink? I just made this amazing turmeric latte that's supposed to reduce inflammation and align your chakras. I wanted to punch something, preferably her face, but I kept my voice level. I'm here about the mortgage. Her smile flickered just a little. What mortgage? The one you took out in my name, for this house. The one that's currently in foreclosure. Oh, that. She laughed. Actually laughed. That was Mom and Dad's idea. And you weren't using your credit for anything anyway, so what's the big deal? The big deal. The big deal. I stepped inside and immediately wanted to burn the place down. It looked like a Pinterest board had exploded. Fake plants everywhere, because God forbid she actually water something. Those wooden signs with stupid inspirational quotes like live, laugh, love, and blessed beyond measure, and a banner over the kitchen sink that said, good vibes only. The freaking irony was thicker than the organic coconut milk in her designer refrigerator. The whole place screamed, I watch too many HGTV shows and have no actual personality. Gray walls, white furniture, those stupid throw pillows that cost $80 each and serve no actual purpose. It was like walking through a furniture showroom where someone with no taste had unlimited money to waste. The big deal, I said, pulling out my folder, is that you committed fraud. Multiple felonies, actually. I spread the contents across her perfect white coffee table. Bank statements, credit reports, legal documents, and my personal favorite, a cease and desist letter from Jenna's law firm. Rachel's eyes went wide. What is all this? Evidence. Copies of the forged mortgage application, documentation of the fake income verification, credit reports showing what you did to my score, identity theft filings. And this, I pulled out the last document, a letter from my attorney. She went pale. Like, actually pale. Your attorney? Yeah, Jenna Morrison. She specializes in identity theft and fraud cases. Really good at what she does. She's already filed complaints with the bank and the state attorney general's office. Rachel sat down hard on her pristine white couch. Nate, come on, we're family. Family doesn't forge each other's signatures on $500,000 loans. That's when my parents walked in. Perfect timing, really. They'd probably been listening from the hallway, trying to figure out how to spin this. Nathan, my mom started, using that disappointed voice she'd perfected over the years. What's all this about? It's about the mortgage you helped Rachel take out in my name. The one that's destroyed my credit and put me on the hook for over $463,000. My dad crossed his arms, using that intimidation pose that worked when I was 12, but just looked pathetic now. Now hold on. This is being blown out of proportion. It was supposed to be temporary. Temporary? I laughed. It's been 18 months. The house is in foreclosure. My credit score dropped 260 points. How exactly is that temporary? We were going to tell you, my mom said. When? When the sheriff showed up to repossess my imaginary assets? Rachel finally found her voice. I can't afford to refinance. My credit isn't good enough. Not my problem anymore. I started gathering up the papers. See, here's what's going to happen. Jenna's filing a civil suit next week. We're going after damages, the loan amount, legal fees, credit repair costs, emotional distress. The bank is conducting a full investigation into the fraudulent documents, and the state attorney general is looking into potential criminal charges. The room went dead silent. My dad's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. My mom looked like she was about to cry. Rachel just stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You can't be serious, my dad finally said. Dead serious. You used me. You forged my signature. You ruined my credit to buy Rachel a house she couldn't afford. And then you expected me to just, what? Smile and pay for it? I headed for the door, then stopped. Oh, and Rachel, nice Instagram posts, by the way. Really helps establish that you've been living here knowingly and willfully. Jenna's gonna love those. I walked out and didn't look back, but I could hear Rachel starting to cry through the door. Good. It was about freaking time. You know what they say about revenge? It's a dish best served cold. But what they don't tell you is how satisfying it is to watch everything fall apart in real time. 3 days after my little visit, Rachel called me 6 times. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. Nate, please call me back. We need to talk about this. The bank called. They're asking all kinds of questions. Mom's having chest pains. You're literally giving her a heart attack. Fine, be an asshole. But this isn't over. I screenshotted everything and forwarded it to Jenna. Evidence of continued harassment and guilt manipulation, she said. Keep 'em coming. The next week, things started getting really interesting. See, Jenna had this friend Alicia who worked in compliance for Silver Oak Mortgage, the same company that was about to repo Rachel's dream house. Alicia couldn't give us inside information, but she could make sure our fraud complaint got the attention it deserved. And boy, did it get attention. Turns out when you file a fraud complaint with enough evidence to bury a small city, banks take notice. Silver Oak launched a full internal investigation into the loan's origination. They pulled every document, interviewed every employee who touched the application, and started asking some very uncomfortable questions. Like, how did a logistics coordinator with a $63,000 salary qualify for a $463,000 mortgage? The math doesn't even work if you throw in my excellent credit at the time. Banks have these little things called debt-to-income ratios that prevent regular people from getting loans they can't afford. Apparently, my fictional alter ego made enough money to laugh at such pedestrian concerns. And why was the income verification printed on letterhead from a company that didn't exist? I actually Googled the company name, Pinnacle Logistics Solutions. Zero results. Not even a placeholder website or a LinkedIn page. They literally made up a business just to fraud me into home ownership. And who the hell was this notary who supposedly witnessed my signature but had been living in Arizona for 3 years? The deeper they dug, the worse it got for my family. The fake income docs, the forged power of attorney, the completely fabricated employment history. It was fraud so obvious, a blind man could see it. But here's my favorite part. Remember those credit cards that were opened in my name? Turns out Rachel had been using them like her personal ATM. Designer clothes, spa treatments, her stupid manifestation retreats. She'd racked up over $40,000 in debt across 3 cards, all in my name, all while posting about financial freedom on social media. The receipts were wild. $400 for something called Reiki energy cleansing, $200 for crystal-infused water therapy, a $1,500 charge to a place called Divine Feminine Awakening Retreat, where apparently you pay premium prices to sit in a circle and talk about your feelings while eating overpriced organic snacks. Jenna subpoenaed her bank records as part of the civil suit. What they showed was beautiful. Rachel wasn't just broke. She was hemorrhaging money like a fire hydrant. Personal trainers, life coaches, something called crystal healing therapy that cost $300 a session. And my personal favorite, a $7,000 retreat called Manifest Your Millionaire Mindset. The woman who couldn't afford her own mortgage was paying $7,000 to learn how to think rich. Meanwhile, every single payment on the house, until they stopped, had come from my parents' account. So they took out a loan in my name, never told me, paid it themselves until they ran out of money, then let it default and stuck me with the consequences. The freaking audacity was breathtaking. But wait, it gets better. Because while Silver Oak was doing their investigation, they had to halt all foreclosure proceedings, which meant Rachel got to keep living in the house while they figured out if the loan was legitimate. So of course, she decided this was all gonna blow over. She kept posting on Instagram, inspirational quotes about weathering life's storms and staying aligned with abundance during challenging times. She even did a whole Instagram live about how negative energy from family members can block your manifestations without a trace of irony. Kept throwing her little parties. Wine nights where she and her equally delusional friends would drink $30 bottles and talk about their journeys. Even started a GoFundMe for unexpected legal expenses, where she painted herself as the victim of a family misunderstanding. The GoFundMe description was a masterpiece of delusion. Hi, beautiful souls. As many of you know, I'm going through a challenging time with some family drama that's affecting my living situation. Some people don't understand the power of manifestation and abundance, and they're trying to use legal tactics to block my blessings. Any support would be deeply appreciated as I navigate this difficult journey. I'm not kidding. She literally crowdfunded her legal defense for committing fraud against her own brother. And people donated. Apparently, there's a whole community of idiots out there who believe that financial responsibility is just another form of negative thinking. That's when I knew she still didn't get it. She thought this was just another mess that mommy and daddy would fix. Another problem that would go away if she ignored it long enough. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Because Jenna had been busy. While Rachel was manifesting her way out of consequences, Jenna was building a case that would make prosecutors weep with joy. She documented everything, the forged signatures, the fake income verification, the fraudulent credit applications. She'd interviewed witnesses, gathered evidence, and prepared a civil suit so airtight it could survive a nuclear blast. But the real kicker? She'd also sent everything to the district attorney's office. Because identity theft isn't just a civil matter, it's a felony. And when you steal over $500,000 using someone else's identity, prosecutors tend to take that personally. The criminal referral went through on a Tuesday. By Friday, Rachel had 2 detectives at her door asking some very pointed questions about mortgage fraud and identity theft. I found out because she called me, sobbing, begging me to make this stop. I let it go to voicemail. Then I played the message for Jenna while we had coffee. That sound, Jenna said, stirring her latte, is the sound of consequences finally catching up. I smiled. We were just getting started. The criminal investigation moved faster than I expected. Turns out, when you hand prosecutors a slam-dunk case with more evidence than they know what to do with, they don't waste time. Detective Martinez called me on a Monday morning. Professional, straightforward, no nonsense. Mr. Reynolds, we've reviewed the evidence you provided regarding the fraudulent mortgage. We'd like you to come in and give a formal statement. Best Monday ever. The police station was exactly what you'd expect. Fluorescent lights, stale coffee, and that weird smell that's part disinfectant, part despair. Detective Martinez led me to a small interview room and set up a digital recorder. Just tell me what happened, she said. From the beginning. So I did. The phone call from the bank. Finding out about the house. Discovering the forged documents. Rachel living it up while my credit burned. Martinez took notes, asked clarifying questions, nodded in all the right places. This is pretty straightforward, she said when I finished. Your sister and parents committed multiple felonies. Identity theft, mortgage fraud, filing false documents. The evidence you've provided is overwhelming. What happens now? We finish our investigation and present the case to the district attorney. Given the dollar amounts involved, we're looking at serious charges. Your sister could be facing 10 to 15 years if convicted on all counts. 10 to 15 years. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. Then I remembered Rachel's Instagram post from last week. A selfie in front of her house with the caption, "Grateful for abundance flowing into my life. Blessed, manifesting magic, dreams come true." The feeling passed. While the criminal case was building, the civil side was moving just as fast. Jenna had filed our lawsuit the week before, and the process server had delivered papers to Rachel and my parents the same day the detectives showed up. You should have seen the voicemail Rachel left me that night. I'm talking 6 minutes of unhinged sobbing, threats, guilt trips, and what I can only describe as a complete psychological breakdown. You're destroying our family. How can you do this to your own sister? Mom's in the hospital because of you. Dad's talking about disowning you. This is all over some stupid paperwork. I hate you. I freaking hate you. I saved it. Jenna said it was excellent evidence of intimidation and harassment. But the real fun started when the bank finished their investigation. Silver Oak didn't just determine that the loan was fraudulent. They went nuclear. They demanded immediate repayment of the full balance plus penalties. When that didn't happen, shocking, I know, they accelerated foreclosure proceedings and went after Rachel and my parents for damages. Turns out banks really don't like it when you make them unwitting participants in mortgage fraud. Who knew? Rachel tried to refinance in her own name. Her credit score was 531. Even payday loan companies laughed at her application. She tried to sell the house. But here's the thing about houses bought with fraudulent loans. The title gets all kinds of messy when lawyers get involved. No legitimate buyer would touch it. So she did what entitled people always do when reality hits. She doubled down. She hired her own lawyer, some strip mall attorney who probably got his degree from a Cracker Jack box. This guy actually had the balls to argue that I'd implicitly consented to the loan by not monitoring my credit reports closely enough. Yeah, my sister stealing my identity was somehow my fault for not catching her fast enough. Jenna eviscerated him in court. And when I say eviscerated, I mean she turned him into legal hamburger. She presented our evidence methodically, professionally, and with the kind of cold precision that makes opposing counsel question their life choices. The judge wasn't impressed with the implicit consent argument, or the family disagreement defense, or Rachel's tearful testimony about how she'd honestly believed she had permission to use my credit. He was especially unimpressed when Jenna played Rachel's GoFundMe video, where she described the whole thing as a misunderstanding while sitting in the fraudulently obtained house, wearing a $300 yoga outfit bought with my stolen credit cards. Miss Reynolds, the judge said, ignorance is not a defense for felony fraud, and this court does not recognize manifesting as a legitimate financial planning strategy. I almost applauded. The civil judgment was everything we'd asked for, and more. $267,000 in damages, covering the loan balance, legal fees, credit repair costs, and emotional distress, plus interest, plus a permanent injunction preventing Rachel or my parents from ever using my personal information again. The judge specifically noted that the emotional distress damages were warranted given the deliberate and malicious nature of the fraud committed by family members against the plaintiff. Even the legal system recognized that this wasn't just theft, it was betrayal at the deepest level. But here's the beautiful part. The criminal charges were still pending, and they were serious. Identity theft in the first degree, mortgage fraud, conspiracy, filing false documents. The district attorney was talking about making an example. Rachel was looking at real prison time. And for the first time in her entitled little life, Mommy and Daddy couldn't write a check to make it go away. The foreclosure hearing was scheduled for the following month. I made sure to get the date and time from Jenna, because I was absolutely going to be there to watch. The foreclosure hearing was everything I'd hoped for and more. Picture this: a gray courthouse conference room that smelled like old coffee and broken dreams. Rachel sitting at a cheap folding table with her discount lawyer, wearing a white blazer that probably cost more than my rent, clutching a Starbucks cup like it was a life preserver. She saw me walk in and her face just crumbled, like watching a sandcastle get hit by a wave. For once in her life, she couldn't fake a smile. My parents were there too, looking like they'd aged 10 years in 2 months. My dad kept glaring at me like this was somehow all my fault. My mom was doing that thing where she clutches her purse and looks around like she's expecting someone to rescue her. Nobody was coming to rescue them. Not this time. The bank's lawyer was a sharp woman in her 50s who looked like she ate foreclosures for breakfast. She laid out the facts without emotion. Late payments, default, fraudulent origination documents, failure to cure despite multiple opportunities. Then Jenna stood up. She didn't need to say much. The evidence spoke for itself. Forged signatures, fake income verification, identity theft, credit card fraud. She methodically destroyed every argument Rachel's lawyer tried to make. But the moment I'll remember forever was when the judge asked Rachel directly, "Miss Reynolds, did you obtain explicit written consent from your brother before using his identity to secure this mortgage?" Rachel opened her mouth, closed it, looked at her lawyer, looked at my parents, finally whispered, "No." "And did you make any payments on this loan from your own accounts?" "No." "And are you currently employed with sufficient income to maintain the mortgage payments?" Longer pause. "No." The judge nodded and made some notes. "The foreclosure will proceed as scheduled. The property will be sold at public auction in 30 days. Mr. Nathan Reynolds is hereby released from all liability pending resolution of the criminal fraud case." He looked directly at Rachel. "Miss Reynolds, I strongly suggest you seek legal counsel regarding the pending criminal charges. This court has seen sufficient evidence of deliberate fraud to recommend prosecution to the fullest extent of the law." Rachel started crying. Not the pretty tears she used to manipulate people, but ugly, desperate sobs. Her perfect Instagram life was literally being auctioned off piece by piece. My dad tried to corner me outside the courthouse. "You didn't have to do this. We could have worked something out." "We could have," I agreed. 18 months ago, before you forged my signature and ruined my credit. She's your sister, and you're my father. Didn't stop you from throwing me under the bus for her." My mom was full-on ugly crying now. "How can you be so cruel? We raised you better than this." I looked at her for a long moment. "No, you didn't. You raised me to be quiet and grateful, while Rachel got everything she wanted. You raised me to clean up other people's messes and never ask for anything myself. But you know what you didn't raise me to be? A doormat." Rachel hadn't said a word during this whole exchange. She just stood there in her expensive blazer, mascara running down her face, looking like her world had ended. Because it had. The house sold at auction 3 weeks later. Some investor bought it for $380,000. A steal, really. But that's what happens when properties have legal clouds hanging over them. Rachel had to be physically removed by the sheriff's department because she'd barricaded herself inside, claiming squatters' rights. I wasn't there for that part, but my neighbor's cousin's friend posted the video on TikTok. It went viral locally. Influencer dragged out a foreclosed dream house got like 200,000 views. The criminal trial took 8 months. Rachel pled guilty to avoid prison time, but she still got 3 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and a felony record that'll follow her forever. My parents got 2 years probation each as co-conspirators. The civil judgment? Still haven't seen a dime. Rachel's broke. My parents sold their retirement condo to pay lawyers, and you can't squeeze blood from a stone. But that's okay. I never expected to collect. I got something better than money. I got my life back. My credit score's back up to 720. I bought a small condo last month. Nothing fancy, but it's mine, in my name, with a mortgage I can actually afford. I sleep on a real bed now, not a mattress on the floor. Got a couch too. Even splurged on one of those fancy coffee makers. Rachel? Last I heard, she was living with some guy she met at her court-mandated financial responsibility classes. She deleted all her social media after the TikTok thing went viral. Probably for the best. My parents tried reaching out for my birthday. Sent a card about healing family wounds and forgiveness. I threw it away unopened. Some wounds don't heal. Some forgiveness isn't earned. But here's the thing I never expected. I'm not angry anymore. Not bitter, not resentful, just free. Free from their drama, their manipulation, their expectation that I'd always be there to clean up their messes. I posted this story on a financial advice forum a few months ago. Anonymously, obviously. It blew up. Hundreds of comments from people with similar stories. Parents who destroyed their kids' credit, siblings who committed fraud, families who taught shame instead of accountability. That was the real victory. Not the lawsuit, not the criminal charges, not even watching Rachel get dragged out of her house by deputies. It was realizing I wasn't alone, and neither were all those other people who'd been used and manipulated by their own families. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's just refusing to be a victim anymore. Actually, scratch that. Sometimes the best revenge is destruction and refusing to be a victim. I'm good with either one.